you have wondered what this whole buzz is about Kickstarter and not sure where to begin or whether this is the right solution for you with regard to crowdfunding, then you are definitely in the right place. We have Sarah Katherine Frey with us, who has done an amazing job at not only funding her Kickstarter, but even after Kickstarter to really just generate a great amount of interest and priority on her books, on her plushies. And she is here today to talk about what she learned and answer questions from others. And I'm so grateful and so proud to call her not just one of my authors, but a very dear friend. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us.
Yeah, it is a delight to be here. I'm super passionate about Kickstarter. As you guys know, that's why I'm here. And I have wanted to be an author for a very, very long time. It's been a dream of mine. And I've always known I wanted to write a book about positivity, and it was going to be about a girl and a dog. I didn't know who the dog was going to be. I assumed the girl would probably be me, but yeah. And years later, I finally here this past year, I met April and we got this ball rolling. But as many authors can attest to very quickly, it's not easy in any way, and financially it most certainly isn't. And I was inspired by a friend of mine who she did a Kickstarter last year and she reached her goal in 24 hours. And I was so proud of her and so happy for her that even though I wasn't really considering Kickstarter, it just put up this thought in my mind that I was like, you know what? I love the teamwork that surrounds this. I love the feel of this. I think I might want to do this. And so I took this story that's been on my heart about my service dog and myself, our story that we look for positivity through adversity. And I thought, I'm going to do this. And so I set up a Kickstarter. I reached out to everybody I knew, and we thankfully and very graciously, from the help of others, we made our goal in the first 24 hours also. And since then, it's just become a real passion of mine. And I've gotten so many people with so many questions, and I just want to help everybody. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to share my screen and show you my Kickstarter just to get us going so that you guys can see it and I can go through my notes and tell you a little bit about the process. So many of you probably know what Kickstarter is, but in case you're totally new to it, it is a form of crowdfunding where you set a goal. Obviously, you have a project, a main project that you're trying to raise money for. And the catch is you have to set a goal, and if you don't reach the goal, you don't get the funds that were raised. So that's why it's a little bit nerve-wracking. There is like Indiegogo, where you can keep what you make if you don't reach the goal. That's a choice. Some people really do great on Indiegogo. It isn't as well known as Kickstarter, so there are some hurdles in that. And for whatever reason, although all or nothing campaigns like this are really scary, it makes it so that people get this sense of teamwork, that they're a part of something, and if they don't help make this happen, it might not happen. And that's kind of the idea of Kickstarter, is just kind of really fostering that teamwork, that launch team we're all talking about, just to get them to come out super strong and make this thing happen. So a bit about the process. The first thing you need to know is it's a lot of work. It really is. I wish I could say that it isn't, that it doesn't have to be, but there's so much that goes into it. So what I always suggest is to start by looking at other Kickstarters, especially in our case at other children's books. So I'll just show you a little bit about my own. I think on Kickstarter, what resonates with people is the story behind your story. This is your why. Once again, that we're always talking about. What is your why as an author? Why are you making this book? You need to craft your very best pitch, talk about who you are, why you created this story. And that is what is going to draw people in. And if you have beautiful pictures, beautiful illustrations, all the better. Like having a balance between pictures and text, that's what's going to draw people in. That's what's going to make them read the story in the first place and hopefully back it.
Sarah, I had a question. With many of these Kickstarters, when I was doing research for my own, I remember hearing that within the first, 5 or 10 seconds, if you're not capturing their attention with your video, they're not going to keep moving forward. Do you have any recommendations for people on, what you did to make a successful video and what you learned with your research?
Absolutely. Yeah. So on Kickstarter, the first thing you see is the video. So that's the first thing people click. And you don't have to do a video on Kickstarter. Like this one doesn't have a video. But normally, if you have a video, this right here, this big picture, you press play and it's a video. You don't have to have one to create a Kickstarter. However, it is kind of frowned upon not to. You are doing yourself a disservice. Okay, you can see with this one that you can press play. A live campaign, that's how it works. So you want to have a great video if you possibly can, because that's going to be the first thing people see. That is people seeing your really quick take to just say those values. You want to get your pitch, your initial pitch, why they're here, why they should support you in the first 30 seconds of the video, because oftentimes people don't watch more than that. So you want to get to the cut to the chase there. For me, I just wrote my script first of all, because the words are so important, just knowing what you're going to say. And then thankfully, this is our story, a real life story about my dog and me, my love for dogs, positivity through adversity. So I had all these great videos and photos from our journey that I knew I wanted those in there. So I plugged those in with the script. And then was the hardest part for me is actually putting yourself out there, sitting down and filming yourself. It's kind of nerve-wracking, but I took the time to look different days, look at the lighting in different areas, just sit down, do like a test. And then I chose, okay, this is the time of day that looks best. This is the place that looks best. Lighting wise, I got a little cheap podcast microphone from my phone, set up a little mount with it. It did not cost me much to make this video, but just taking the time to really craft it and, make people laugh, make people feel whatever it is, make them feel those feels that you want with your book. For us, we want people to feel inspired. Well, my book is called Alice Eloise's Silver Linings, the story of a silly service dog. I want people to feel inspired. I want people to just feel a sense of positivity. I want people to laugh at that silly puppy dog. And that's all in about 3 minutes. You want to get all that done in about 3 minutes and get most of it in the first 30 seconds. So you can get help with that. I actually reached out to Amy Weaver, who does a lot of the video books, to do mine. But then when I was preparing this stuff to send to her, I was like, I've practically made the video already, and it's going to be a lot closer to my heart if I do it myself. So I just used iMovie. The software on my computer is nothing fancy, but it came together really nice and it seemed to resonate with people. So April's right. The video is super important because that's people's first look at you and at your project. So yeah, I have some notes about exactly what I did, but it's nothing fancy, but it is important. So I highly—
It's heartfelt. What I loved most about it is it's authentically Sarah Kate. Your message comes through loud and clear. You are so lovable. Like everybody just loved this video so much. And I think that drove an awful lot for you. I'm looking at this $19,000 figure of what you raised. Can you tell us a little bit about what you started with and how did that come about? Because you really smashed your goals here.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was terrified to set a goal of 7,000 and I almost set it lower. There are two goal setting tactics. One is adding up the entire cost of what your project will be, and that is your goal. But like I said, you have to reach that goal or you don't get any of the funds. So it is safer to just like decide, okay, no matter what I get, it'll be helpful. Let me set something more realistic. it doesn't have as much incentive there, because otherwise you'd be like, well, why wouldn't you just set a lower goal? If, you lose incentive if there isn't that sense of, I really need to help this person out here. So I went with 7,000. That was in between my super, super, super brave number and my compromising number. So I started just by looking at campaigns. I just studied them and looked at, okay, what is the average pledge of a kid's book? In my research, most campaigns, the average pledge was $35. So I just, looked at how much they made and their number of backers and, did the math. Most of them came out to $35. And so I thought through, okay, in that case, to reach $7,000, I would need this many backers. So I started just by doing my research and looking. And then I started playing. You can set up a Kickstarter for free just to see if you like it. You just set up an account and then you press this button, new campaign. And so I started it that way, and I just started building. I put together my story, I put together my graphics, and that was the easy part to me because I love making things pretty. And then the hard part was coming up with incentive to back it. The first thing is you need to have a great project. You need to believe in your book. The book is the main thing. But then it really does help if you can have some extras just to flesh out your project. For me, we had these little plushies that were like my dog with her service dog vest. We had exclusive Kickstarter stickers. So it's like, that might be incentive to somebody that this is the only time they're ever going to get that. And we also had t-shirt transfers. So once I kind of had an idea of what I was going to be selling, what I was going to have on my project, the biggest thing you need to do then is outreach. If you decide this is what you want to do, then I guess your big questions are, what do you want to set your goal at? And when do you want to launch?
That's a great transition to one of the questions we got from April Lee. How do you set a goal and a stretch goal? Is there a formula, or did you use any tools, Sarah?
I did. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Lisa Furlan. I reached out to her. She has like a free 30-minute consult. And so I reached out to her, and that was my first step with her. She has resources that you can purchase, and she has like a vault that's like $100. I got the mini vault. I don't like, it was maybe $25 or $35. And it has a lot of tools like your campaign calendar, like giving you ideas of what you can post on social media, your launch day checklist, all kinds of tools. My two favorites though, one was the goal setting calculator. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and she has like the formulas that do the math for you. So you do your research. Like I said, I found that the average pledge for kids' books, at least when I was making my campaign, was $35. And I added up expenses. I started with just going for my print run and the production of the plushies, rather than adding in my illustrations, my ISBNs, all of that, just to have a safer goal. And then the calculator did the math for me. It gives you an oops factor. It gives you the Kickstarter fee. It takes all of that into account. Then it will tell you about how many backers you would need to reach your goal, and also what your goal should be, given that, based on everything you entered. So that was really helpful for me. That helped me set my $7,000 goal. Just look up Lisa Furlan on YouTube. I just went through her YouTube channel, and it gave me a lot of confidence to move forward with this. It kind of taught me that, as scary as this is, if you play your cards right, you can't guarantee success, but you can get a pretty good idea whether or not you will succeed. So with that in mind, once you kind of set your goal and have an idea of how many backers you would need, your job next is to educate people, get out there on social media, start posting images, just let people know you're making a book. If they don't know it already, let them know it. So when I was doing that, even before I announced that I was going to do a Kickstarter, I made a list of every single person who commented on any of my posts about my book, saying that they were interested, that they're excited. I wrote it all down so that I would have an idea of what my turnout could be. And then when I decided I wanted to do a Kickstarter, I gradually sent Facebook messages to every single one of those people and told them what I was doing. Kickstarter, the better turnout you get on launch day, the better chances you have of succeeding. It just totally sets the momentum for your campaign. It works well with the algorithms. It gets Kickstarters a lot more likely to show it. Kickstarter, you know, like they have the Project We Love badge that, like right here, that it gives you more attention. So if you can come out with a bang, all the better. So I sent the messages gradually. You can end up in Facebook jail. So be careful.
Sarah, do you also have an issue with just educating your audience about what Kickstarter is? 'Cause
Yeah.
I definitely have heard from some people, oh, it's like a GoFundMe, but that's not what it is at all.
No, and that's what I thought, like educating people, that's why it's so important, because people may not know if it's reputable. They might think that they're just giving free money. People don't even know it's a pre-order system sometimes. They think they're just donating and contributing. And they might be thinking, you know, I'd rather just buy the book when it's out, when really that's exactly what they're doing. They will be getting a book in return. And tell them, you know, it's all or nothing. We don't get funds unless we succeed. Your card's not even charged until the end of a successful campaign. I have a bunch of notes here. I'm happy to share with everybody. I'm also happy to share like a little script of what I sent to people. You want to do it, individualize it. People really connect more with that. But yeah, I just said if you're still interested, if you wouldn't mind sending me your email address so that I can just let you know the day we launch. I also created postcards, which I think was actually a really big deal because I sent them out just like my Christmas card list to a bunch of people we know. I made a pretty picture, and on the back it said like launching October 3rd on Kickstarter. You can pre-order our book here. The better we do on launch day, the better chance we have of succeeding overall. I just kind of gave a really quick pitch to the people that don't know what Kickstarter is. If we hadn't already talked on Facebook, this is their chance to learn what it's about really fast. Just a really short thing on the back, mark your calendar, we're launching. I got a lot of backers just from doing that because it let people know that weren't on social media with me. So just anything you can do to get the word out to the people you know, the people that you think will be interested, that you're doing this, and let them know what it is so that they can show up, hopefully on launch day, but anytime during your campaign. By the way, campaign length. Most people, you know, very different time limits that people set on their Kickstarter, but the most successful ones are usually 30 days or under. People usually go 2 weeks to 30 days. I did like 30 to 30 or 31 days. So yeah, that's just one little tip.
Sarah, how long did it take you to set up your Kickstarter? How long did you allow yourself before launching Kickstarter to get everything all ready to go?
I started probably maybe 4 or 5 months in advance, just like building the page and doing all the outreach. Nevertheless, I had a mad dash in the last 2 days where I gotten some feedback, and it really like made me just rethink a lot. And so it's, you know, always kind of crazy, you know how it is. You want it to be perfect, especially in planning your reward tiers, which a good place to go next. In addition to the outreach, making people know that this is happening, making them excited, I spent so much time planning my reward tiers. Like I said, my main components were the book, the plushie, those t-shirt transfers. I also have like, you know, just a digital option, ebook and video book, so that a person can pledge at a low level and still get a reward. And then, you know, just the book, buy one, donate one, book and plushie, and so on and so on. But the idea of the tiers are you want to incentivize people to bump up. Like one book is $20, but instead of like 2 books being $40, I have it being $38. And then there's packages like 2 books and 2 plushies. And not only does that save you money, but you also get this special upgrade. You get to choose one of 2 t-shirt transfers. So you can kind of see the incentive that you want to offer more value with each tier level to encourage people that they'll save more if they buy more, but it also helps you raise more funds. So there is definitely a psychology to your tier planning. And that was also one of the tools that really helped me from Lisa Furland was her reward tier planning. It's just a spreadsheet that you can think out all of your tiers. There is a pledge without a reward that's there by default. So without that, I had 12 tiers. You don't have to have that many. That's, some people would maybe say that's a little bit too much, because sometimes people, if they see too much going on, they get confused and they just leave. Most people would probably say don't do more than 12. But in addition to just doing the outreach, which does take a lot of time, I think in the planning of my campaign itself, I put the most time into figuring out my tier levels, just sitting there with a calculator and making sure everything makes sense, that the value goes up, and also making sure that I'm not losing money, that not only does the value go up, but that I'm making enough money with each tier that it actually makes sense. And that includes shipping. I recommend building the shipping into the actual cost and saying free shipping, because it sounds nice and it's easy.
So to recap, Sarah, so of 3 or 4 months of planning and getting everything set up, how long did you allow yourself to communicate and generate buzz before you actually clicked to get your Kickstarter started?
Oh, golly. I think I announced my book like early May. And I think I started building my campaign probably like, actually just starting to play with it and design it probably in July or August. And I started like the outreach that I made the decision, yeah, I'm doing Kickstarter. I started sending the messages out to people probably about a month before I was planning to launch my campaign. I'm not going to lie, I really sat on it a while. Is this what I want to do? The sooner you make the decision, it'll be easier for you to plan. The sooner you can make that decision. Once I made the final decision, I started putting it on my social media, and I did something a little bit interesting. People do like to see what you're doing. They like to see what they're signing up for. And so people usually, say start putting the message out there early, start showing what you're doing, like pictures and such. And I'm kind of weird. No, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say I'm kind of weird, but well, I mean, I am. But I didn't want to give everything away too early, which that's probably bad advice. But I decided to do something a little bit interesting on my social media. I saved some special surprises for right before launch, like the week leading up to it. So this is my social media, just to kind of give you an idea. On September 20th, I launched October 3rd. I posted this for International Doodle Day. We're going to do Kickstarter on October 3rd. And just a brief, be there, that we'll do the best we can. Have a great launch day. And then 1 week before launching, I did our cover reveal. Most people would say do it sooner than that, but I had some gut feelings. Like they say the best day to launch is like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, statistically. But when I was sending out my announcement messages, just kind of education messages, I got such quick responses on Saturdays. So I totally broke the rules and I launched on Saturday. It worked for me. So sometimes you just get a gut feeling. And for some reason, I felt like this approach was good.
Not only did it work, but it actually got funded in 24 hours, right?
It did. So, I mean, I can't guarantee anything, but that's what I did. So the week before, I just kind of had these special surprises, and I kind of built it up like, stay tuned, there'll be more surprises. And I did it on my Facebook, I did it on my Instagram, I did it on my newsletter, all that. And then the night before, I launched the YouTube video, the Kickstarter video on YouTube, so that people could see it before we even launch and get a feel for our mission. And then once you launch, you just blast it from the rooftops. You post like crazy. You have these milestones, like when you're funded, post. Whenever you reach a stretch goal, post, which leads me to stretch goals. So like I said, if you haven't reached your goal yet, that is incentive. So I reached my goal in 11 hours. So on one hand, that's like, yeah, let's celebrate. Awesome. It does take the incentive away a little bit, because people are like, well, I can get it anytime then. So you can do stretch goals. I thought out my first couple, but honestly, sometimes I had the privilege of, reaching a stretch goal and having no idea what the next one was going to be and having to dream something up. But it is a good idea to think about. So like I did, for every $100 past our goal, we'll donate a book to a kid who needs a silver lining. And then the next one was silver foil on the cover, which was a dream. And it turned out so pretty. Like it just, stuff like that gets people excited. Coloring sheets. I upgraded to my first choice printer, so fast turnaround time and really good quality. Extra pages in the book. And my big one was if we reached $18,000, we would donate 100 plushies and then keep donating for every $100 after that. So just thinking up ways to keep building momentum. And every time you hit one of those goals, sharing it on social media, get people excited, ask people to share it. Like sometimes you have to just flat out ask, and people get excited and are more than happy to be a part of something. That's what I love about Kickstarter, is it really fosters that just excitement, that teamwork.
Yeah. And you did such an amazing job. You had a great following when you came into Kickstarter. And could you talk a little bit about that? Because I know many people who have, going through the Kickstarter route, thinking that they were going to be able to find backers, that they would just come and that they would just purchase or pre-order. I know that Lisa's always talking about making sure that you have a certain number of backers before you even get started. So tell me, what did you start with for an author platform? And do you have any recommendations for those who are planning to move forward with their own?
Yeah, in my notes, that's one of the things, like the big question. So when should you launch? Like I said, there are those statistical things like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, don't launch too close to Christmas, that kind of thing. But the number one thing, don't launch until you're ready. Don't launch until you feel like you have enough of an audience. That's why I sent out those messages, both because I wanted people to know about it, but also because that's what gave me more of an assurance that I had a shot at making this work. I'm a blogger. I've blogged for a while, even before I knew that I was doing this. I just blog about my journey with long-term illness and disability. Sarah Kate Silver Linings, that's my blog. That's why our book is Alice Eloise's Silver Linings. And just over the years, people, I've told my story. That's kind of it. Like sharing who you are, sharing your story, that is what draws people in. It's not the book. People get excited about that secondhand, but we're just starting to fulfill orders, and people are talking about how they're reading the book through tears and laughter, because it's not just about the book. They know the story behind the book. That's what you want to show people. That's what's going to draw people in. And for me, that was blogging. That was how I built my audience. I can't say for each of you guys, I don't know what your story is, but that is my biggest recommendation, is just letting people see the person behind your project. That's what's going to draw people in. That's what's going to help you get your message out there. It's hard because I know I'm so excited about my book. I like to post about it. Yeah, I like getting orders, of course, but more than anything, I like to talk about it because I'm excited about it. It's my heart right now. That's where I'm at. So sometimes you just have to take a step back from it, though, and just be you, because that's the reason you decided to write what you wrote. Something's on your heart that made you write it, and just sharing that, putting that out there. Just keep telling that story, and then the book is just part of that story.
How large would you say your audience was, your author platform, Sarah, when you started your Kickstarter?
Well, I had a few hundred on my email list. My bigger followings are on Instagram and Facebook. I started my author page probably on Facebook in May, I want to say, and just kind of keep an eye on that stuff, on how you're doing. Thankfully, I got my first couple hundred followers in the first couple hours. So you kind of just gauge those things, learn how excited people are about it. Some days it's defeating. Some days things just don't resonate with somebody. I'm not this super blogger. I'm not pioneer woman or anything like that. So don't get the wrong idea. I've told my story for, the past probably 9 years now I've been doing it. So it took time. It was not an overnight thing. That's probably not what you want to hear. I wish there was a fast and simple way, but like I said, whatever your story is, just put that out there. I also just thought of something I want to mention. Like I said, I spent so much time thinking about the reward tiers. One of the questions I had was, you set up these tiers where it's 4 books, 4 plushies, 2 books, 2 plushies. you're like, well, what if somebody just wants 3 books? That was one thing that really tripped me up with Kickstarter was, what if I don't meet somebody's needs? I really want to meet everybody's needs. So I did something where it's add-on options where like once you got a certain pledge level, like I think it was the book and the plushie, you could add a book or a plushie for $15. And then once you got to the level that had t-shirt transfers, you could add more of those for $5. So that was my way of customizing it so anybody can get what they want. Now Kickstarter actually has a feature that you can build that in, because what I had to do was like people just say you did this $65 pledge. If you want another book, you would just, instead of entering $65, you would enter $80. And so afterward, you send out a survey and people can, detail exactly what they want. That's where you get their address and everything like that. Now I think they do have a better system that you can just build that into it. Before everybody signed on, somebody asked about what to do after it. So just because you reach your goal, you've probably got this by now, you still run the campaign for the determined length, the predetermined length, and you just make as much as you make in that time once you reach that goal and add up all your stretch goals. So it really is kind of a difficult transition because you've built up all this momentum into this campaign. Then it's like, what do you do afterward? I used something called Backer Kit where I built a survey through it that went out to all of my backers. That's how I got their address, all that, because you don't even get that stuff during the campaign because you don't get it until the end of a successful campaign. But that's what let me send out my surveys. It also makes it super easy that people can also add on additional things. So this is just an example of it. It asks you the questions like, what t-shirt transfer did you want? That kind of thing. And then at the end of it, it gives you the option to add even more things. And it's been great because it kept the momentum. People can add more add-ons right here. And I made actually a fair amount more in addition to my Kickstarter through that. And you can also open a pre-order shop that totally continues. That's just, that's how people are buying my books now. And it's all linked to my Kickstarter stuff. All the SKUs go into my spreadsheets that now that I'm fulfilling orders, it's all in one tidy package. So there is a cost to that. I can't say if there's anybody who can say if they've done it both ways. Some people might hate it, but it worked really well for me. So personally, that's what I'm doing. I was super scared of order fulfillment. Using that and pirate ship has really helped me stay organized. Honestly, I love this so much and I just love helping people. I'm all for sharing my own journey because it's been quite a ride.
So we did have a couple questions about where or who did you get to do the video? So you did that yourself, right? With your mom shooting the video and then you edited it yourself?
Yeah, so I bought just like a cheap little podcast microphone and a cheap just mount for my phone that I hooked to a chair and just sat outside with my dog for like a couple hours, if I'm being honest, just saying the same thing over and over again and then grabbing the best takes and piecing it together on iMovie. And then I got like the music, it was just like a few dollars off of Audio Jungle. And I'm not a videographer at all, but I think it turned out pretty nice. You want it to look nice. You want it to be pretty and appealing. It's most of all just about the story. So I just used iMovie and it came together pretty well. It's not anything fancy at all, but I was able to get it done myself. And I am kind of a perfectionist in a way. April knows that. Like I formatted my own book because I get ideas in my head and I have way too many ideas. And I would drive somebody crazy if I hired them to do my video, if I hired them to format my book for me, because I get these ideas. I'm like, oh, that would look cool. So I personally like to create things myself. So yeah, you just plug in the clips and plug in animation if you want it and music. It was time consuming, but not difficult.
Amy Weaver has done a lot with the author community and with my author work group for those that need videos done, whether it's a read aloud of your book or it's something like a Kickstarter video. If you get those clips over, she can do some splicing and add some, nice effects for you. I also have a video team that I am very grateful for. So as you're moving forward, if you need assistance, you can certainly reach out between Amy and other video resources that I have. I can probably point you in the right direction. The other thing that Sarah did that I know myself I would never be able to do, she's got a wonderful graphic design eye. So as she scrolled through all the beautiful things she put in that Kickstarter, it just flowed beautifully. She had gorgeous banners. So having a graphic designer to help you lay that out so that it really stands out well will go a long way in making a beautiful Kickstarter that will stand out for people.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna lie, I put a lot of time into the graphics because I enjoy doing that. That was the fun part for me. I love doing that stuff. So yeah, I'm always happy to offer feedback or guidance on that. It's like I said, I'm kind of a control freak on this stuff because I have too many ideas. But whenever it can capture your eye, that's what keeps me on a Kickstarter campaign. Is first it's the video, then does it look pretty, and then I start to read and decide if I want the book or whatever it may be. So yeah.
So Sherry's asking, sending the ebook out to backers, is a PDF okay from Google Drive, or what did you use to deliver the PDF?
Yeah, I haven't sent mine out yet. I'm starting to fulfill my hardcovers, and that's another thing. A lot of people will do the ebooks as soon as they're ready. I wanted people to see the hardcovers because it's so beautiful. But well, this is what I did. I set up an unlisted page on my blog, but you could just send the Google Drive. I just set this up on my blog where I'll send people the link, and it has my book cover here, and it also has my other resources like my video book, coloring pages, t-shirt transfer instructions, and then you can just click the cover and it takes you to a copy of the Google Drive that holds the ebook. So that's what I'm doing. BackerKit also has an option that they can fulfill your digital downloads also, but I'm planning to do a PDF because I think that that's what most people are good with. I think a lot of people, like if you send a Mobi file, for instance, they won't know what to do with it. So I'm just doing a PDF myself.
Once you got all of the funding, you had a successful campaign, you didn't at that point ordered your books, right? So
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about who you ordered the books from? How long did that process take? And
Yeah.
maybe also comment on where you got the plushies, because I know there's a lot of people interested in that as well.
For sure. Yeah. So at the point I was at whenever my Kickstarter was running, I was still in the illustration process. I would say you don't have to be totally done, but I would recommend having at least some illustrations to show people if you can. I know somebody who they actually did their Kickstarter to help pay for their illustrations, but they paid for a few samples up front so that they could use them on their Kickstarter. Then they got funded and went and did the rest of their illustrations. So if you need that, that's totally cool. However, if you can have some, that's really helpful. But we were in the illustration process. We were wrapping that up during the Kickstarter. And in fact, it took a little bit longer than hoped. So by the time the Kickstarter was done, I wasn't quite ready to order the books yet, but we finished up the illustrations. I did the graphic design and formatting, and then I ordered the books. And I'm very thankful. Like I said, one of my stretch goals was to go with our first choice printer, which made it, the best quality and the fastest turnaround time. I ended up going through Johnston's, which is, a yearbook company. It's here in the US and near Nashville. And when I submitted the books, I took a little bit extra time because I wanted to see prints. They didn't do like a full hard proof, but they sent me like the pages themselves so I could look at them and make some tweaks. And then once I approved that, we pressed the green light. It would have taken between that green light and the expected delivery date. That itself was 3 weeks from when I approved everything. It was 3 weeks. We ended up getting a delay because of snowstorms, but that was not their fault. Everything was ready to ship and packed up before those snowstorms. So it was 5 weeks for me because of those snowstorms. But from the time I said, yes, I approve these designs, I approve how everything looks on the page, it was 3 weeks. So that's, a personal decision. I felt good about I did catch some things I wanted to tweak on the pages themselves.
So
So
is the goal, Sarah, to choose a US based printer versus a China printer?
it was. And interestingly, I didn't know how much I would make, but as you could imagine, whenever you buy more books, they're cheaper than if you buy less. And so Jostens would have been pricey if I could only get, the minimum 1,000. But thankfully, I made enough that I could go for the 3,000 books. And it actually ended up being cheaper than some of the China printers. Like, whenever I did a direct quote with the foil stamping, 3,000 books, same finishes at one China printer. Once you got the shipping and everything, it was going to be almost $2,000 more at that China printer than Jostens in the US. That's only because I got the 3,000. I'm sure if I had gone with 1,000, Jostens was pricey with 1,000, but they had a huge price drop at 3,000. So it worked out really, really well. The quality is gorgeous. I can't recommend them highly enough. It works for me, and I was just ecstatic to be able to reach that stretch goal and go for that.
Hi, Sarah. Awesome job on your Kickstarter. I wanted to find out, what about people who are actually not Americans? How do you navigate Kickstarter? Do you have to have an American account? Like, how do you navigate that space? And congrats again.
No, you do not have to be from America. In fact, Lisa Furland, she is in Sweden. So she's a good resource on that stuff too. I do think that there's an extra challenge. I know somebody in Canada who's done it, somebody in Denmark, and I know there are extra challenges. Honestly, a lot of that challenge would be the same. If you're wanting to do like hardcovers and fulfill, obviously like with KDP, that takes care of all that for you. But if you're wanting to fulfill anywhere from where you're at, you'll face those challenges. Your biggest challenge, of course, will be if most of your audience is in other parts of the world. Fulfilling those things will be obviously have its own unique challenges, but Kickstarter is an option in many, many countries.
How did you deal with international backing and shipping, Sarah?
Thank you that's a really good question, and I kind of freaked myself out over that big time. So most of my tiers, I offered shipping anywhere in the world, and I did add a tiny fee for those. Depending on the tier, I think I maybe added like $15. And I put so much thought into that. Once I got into like my bigger tiers, once I got up to like, 4 items, I made it US just to protect myself, just in case, because I didn't want to mess up. So I just added a little bit of shipping. What you can do whenever you're setting up your tiers, you can mark anywhere in the world, or you can specify which countries. And you can also specify shipping prices for those, different places. So I had free shipping for the US, and I built in a little bit of cushion for international. And I remember just asking so many questions about that, freaking out about that. And people said, honestly, you're overthinking it. It won't be as huge of a problem as you think it is. You'll only get so many international orders. So thankfully, it seems to be working out. One thing that helps, I did my pricing for shipping on Pirate Ship. It wasn't perfect because I didn't know exactly what I was going to mail stuff in, but it did help. You can just set up an account. You can enter in make believe people and places just to get a feel for how much something will cost. Today, I entered a spreadsheet with some of my international orders to like Canada and Israel, and the average was going to be like $14, $15 for a book. So, that's the thing. Like I said, I made it free shipping for the US because I just built that average price in. So that does mean that some people, like, if I'm shipping across the country technically, and people closer to me are technically less. So it kind of, you just hope it balances itself out. I just did my best on shipping. It freaked me out to no end, but I would just, recommend playing with Pirate Ship, getting rates there. And then in my backer kit for my continued orders, I can set shipping prices for elsewhere in the world. Like for each of my options, I can set different shipping prices. Like now, for instance, backer kit, I felt like made it a little bit easier for me to set those prices. So now I actually have like a 4-in-4 bundle I have available elsewhere in the world. So yeah, that was one of the things that tripped me up the most. But my advice would be pirate ship, just to kind of get a feel for things. Your
And
best.
does that allow media mail, Sarah?
It does, yeah. It does allow media mail for your books. So that's really nice.
Thank you so much for staying over with us. So before we go, I just want to give you an opportunity to just tell people, because your book is going to be launching again, right, on KDP. So
Yeah.
if you could give people information about where to go to, would you prefer that they go to your backer kit, or are you looking to do a book launch on KDP? Tell us more.
Yeah. So right now at aliceeloise.com, if you're interested in seeing my hardcovers and like how the quality is with Jostens and the plushies, I forgot to tell you guys where I got those.
Oh, thank you.
I got mine. I did a lot of research on this too. Most places, like the minimum order is really, really high and the prices are even higher. But I went with, it's called I Got a Toy, and they are in China, but the prices are great, especially the more you get. Like I got $1,500 to get a good price. And he is just so pleasant to work with. I paid $100 for a prototype, and that included like a bunch of revisions and shipping. And, I sent pictures of my dog. I sent pictures of what my ideas were. I sent a picture of my dog's vest, and they literally just put it on a computer, and that is her vest, just printed. And once I was happy, they sent it to me. I loved it. And that was that. I have so many notes that I'm happy to share all my Kickstarter notes with everybody. I can email them, put them in Facebook, whatever. And I can also include the information on the plushies and everything. But that was great. But anyway, so yeah, on aliceeloise.com, my hardcovers, my plushies, my t-shirt transfers. If anybody's interested in seeing the quality of those or reading it, those are there. I'm also in the next week or so going to finally be launching the ebook on KDP, because a lot of people put them up even if they did a Kickstarter before they fulfill their orders. I really wanted to make sure my backers had the opportunity to see everything first. That's just a personal decision. And I really wanted people to see my hardcovers. But yeah, that's another thing with Kickstarter, is you have to make the difficult transition. You built the momentum around your Kickstarter and not around Amazon. So everybody bought on Kickstarter and not on Amazon. So now it is not quite starting over. I just have to try to move that momentum. I'm going to try to do some free ebook days that'll let my Kickstarter backers get the free, the Mobi directed straight to their Kindle and get some verified reviews that way. But yeah, so you can keep an eye out for that in the next couple weeks. Any reviews, any whatever. I'm just excited to have the opportunity to share this story with you guys.
I can't wait to get mine in the mail and do my review with Kyrie. So thank you so much for spending time with us. This was really, really helpful.
Yeah, and anybody, please reach out. I love helping. I love mentoring. I want to do anything I can to help you guys. So find me on Facebook, find me wherever, and I'll do my best to offer guidance.
Sounds like we have a hands-on coming with anybody that's getting ready to start. Maybe we'll do a workshop, Sarah.
Yeah, hey, I'm game. I'm game.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.